Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at the first of the Abrahamic monotheistic religions, and the first one is Judaism. First of all, when we look at Judaism, we have to ask a question. Are we talking about ethnic Jews or religious Jews? And there is a difference here, but often you can be either one and you can be both. An ethnic Jew is actually somebody who comes from Israel, or their background and their culture is from Israel. They would be considered ethnically Jewish. A religious Jew is just somebody who practices Judaism, and it doesn't matter where they came from. If they believe in Judaism, they are religiously a Jew. So they can be different. So you'll see the term Jewish being used in different ways. For this model, we're talking about religious Jews and the fundamentals of Judaism. So around the world, you will notice the collection of Jews and where they are more prominent. Obviously, number one on the chart is Israel. That is right here in the Middle East. Number two on the chart is the United States. The United States has a very large population of Jews. Most of them are on the east coast of the United States. The prophet, the one, the only, the original OG of the monotheistic Abrahamic religions is, in fact, Abraham himself. So, Abraham is born in Ur, eventually has a covenant with God, meaning an agreement or a connection that Abraham and the land for the Israelis or the Jews is going to be a place called the Holy Land, which is Canaan, and today is modern day Israel. It goes by many names: Samara, Judea, Palestine, all of those. But that land is considered the Holy Land for the Jews based on the covenant that's made with Abraham. And from there, then, of course, you get all the different major Abrahamic religions. So Abraham, with two different wives, ends up having Isaac and Ishmael. Eventually, Ishmael leads to the 12 Arabian tribes, and of course, eventually Muhammad and Mecca. Uh, Isaac ends up having the 12, ends up with the 12 tribes of Israel, one of which ends up including a guy named Jesus. And but when it comes down to it, um, like Jesus is not considered the last prophet or the son of God in Judaism. The actual like son of God or the prophet that is supposed to come later hasn't arrived yet, according to most Jews. But everything starts with Abraham. The other prophet that is big is Moses. Moses leads the Israelis out of slavery in Egypt. If you remember that in the Bible, the whole let my people go and the parting of the Red Sea and everything. And then eventually, on his way to Canaan, which is Israel, he stops on a mountain and he goes up. He communes and talks directly to God. God gives him the Ten Commandments. And eventually, it's said that Moses writes the Torah, which is, of course, the Old Testament of the Bible. And it is those Ten Commandments that end up becoming one of the founding pillars of Judaism. And so this brings us to our core belief, which is that the Ten Commandments, that is how you should live your life if you are Jewish under the ideals of the Ten Commandments. They are also a basis for fundamental laws here in the West. Another core belief of Judaism is that there is one God, and that that one God has created all, and eventually, moves people based on God's will. Uh, some of the prophets and like the overall stories. Well, the main story that comes out of Judaism is the fact that Abraham has that covenant with God. I mean, it's the whole idea of why some people often get angry with people that are Jewish is because there's a feeling like there's a special relationship with God and only people that are Jewish, and that's part of the story aspect of being Jewish. Obviously, the Ten Commandments are also a big part of like the story. The fact that Moses communed with God on top of a mountain and comes back down with these ideas. That's a big part of being Jewish. The holy book in Judaism is the Torah. It is known. by most people in the United States as the Old Testament of the Holy Bible. Okay. And of course, everything starts with Genesis. But if you get into, like, we'll look at it, Christianity, is the Torah actually a part of the Christian belief? And the answer is, yeah, it is, because it's just the Old Testament of the Bible. But they don't call it the Torah; they just call it the Old Testament of the Bible. But in Judaism, we call the Old Testament the Torah. A couple of different religious rituals that take place in Judaism. First of all, every religion has a Sabbath, which is technically known as the day of rest, where you're often not supposed to do anything but kind of commune with God and be a part of the family, that kind of thing. Um, Jewish Sabbath is actually Friday evening to Saturday evening. It's supposed to be for 25 hours. Um, it's, you kind of feast on bread. You are together with family. If you're a strong practicing Jew, that you may engage in a lot of prayer, but also people just are you're putting down your electronic devices. You're not focused on anything other than those around you, and so they'll play games and do that kind of thing. But it is known as Shabbat, and it lasts for a total of 25 hours. Compare it to what Sunday would be to a Christian. You have Hanukkah, which is known as the Festival of Lights. This takes place around in December, and every night for eight nights, that you light the menorah, and sometimes there's like gifts that are given each night, and it's a representation of a time when Israelis held out against. I can't remember the name of the tribe, but I don't think it's the Romans, and they had lit candles to kind of be able to see their way in the darkness while they were being kind of hidden away. Other ones you'll hear is Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year. You have Yom Kippur, which is kind of the Day of Atonement. It is the holiest day in all of Judaism. For 25 hours, you're supposed to essentially fast, kind of cleanse yourself, atone for any sins from the Lord, and actually pray. And then there's Passover, which is the celebration of of leaving Egyptian slavery and heading towards the Holy Land. You may hear of a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah for females. It is a coming of age ritual, usually around 13 years old. It's pretty standard in the Jewish faith. There's also one thing that they have in common with Islam, and that is that some food must actually fit religious laws. And this is known as food being kosher. So there are some things that you cannot eat, like meat from certain animals, certain types of birds, certain cuts of beef, certain types of like shellfish and stuff. You can't have any blood in any meat, so it has to be cooked very, very thoroughly. And actually, the slaughter or food prep for foods that are kosher have pretty strict rules and laws. And so that's, when you hear about kosher food or is food kosher, it usually has to fit some Jewish food preparatory laws. A place of worship is a synagogue is the most common place of worship. The person that is going to be running the synagogue and the services is known as a rabbi. You will see people that are worshiping sometimes wear what's something called a yarmulke. Again, it's just kind of part of the faith. Not everybody, like any other faith, not everybody practices wearing a yarmulke either. And the primary religious symbol is the Star of David. You will see it, of course, on the Israeli flag as well. Some historical contributions of Judaism, obviously monotheism and the rise of one God. And of course, out of that becomes Islam and Christianity. You also have the foundations of Western law, which come from the Ten Commandments. Yes, a lot of where our laws come from are founded from those Ten Commandments. Some problems with Judaism. And we mean problems, we don't necessarily mean with the religion itself, but some of the issues that have come from Judaism. Number one is called the various diasporas. And a diaspora is a forced removal from your homeland. So multiple times in their history, Jews have been forced out, whether it's to go to the parts of northern Syria by the Assyrians, whether it's the Babylonians, and whether it's the Romans, and a lot of Jews feel like Israel is their homeland, that Abraham made a covenant with God to put them there, and other empires have constantly been kicking them out over their entire history or slaughtering them. So, this is part of the reason why when Jews after the Holocaust return to Israel, they feel like, well, it was ours in the first place, even though the people that were there, the Palestinians, they they came there along with the Ottoman Empire, and of course, when Islam spread in around 650 towards that region. But there's a really strong connection to the homeland because they feel like they've been kicked out multiple times. So this is why you have so many problems with Israelis, which is here, and of course the West Bank and Gaza, which is run by the Palestinians. And the population of Palestinians has gotten less and less and less over time, and Israelis have kind of gone in and made settlements in Palestinian land. Very controversial. There's anti Semitism, which is a hostility or discrimination against Jews. They have been discriminated against for thousands of years by Babylonians, Romans, Byzantines, Muslims, Russians, Soviets, and Nazis, of course. Millions and millions of people have died. And recently, we're seeing more and more anti Semitism on the rise, not only around the world, but also in the United States, some of it related to the Gaza Israeli war. Okay? So you're seeing more incidents of anti Semitism also in the US. But it does all go back to Abraham is the one that started it all. Judaism is kind of like the founding monotheistic religion, which eventually evolves, and the two offshoots are going to be Christianity and Islam.